Okay, once you've installed SQL Manager 2012, the SQL Express on your computer, what we're going to do in this tutorial is show you how to create a database table in SQL, then go to Visual Basic and connect to that new SQL Server and put in a data grid and a binding navigator, and I'll show you the end results here. So this is a simple contact database with full name, email. I can go in here and select a row and delete a row. I can hit the plus symbol to add a new record. Save it, exit out of it, start it up, and the data has been saved. You can navigate through the rows this way as well, back to beginning. So that's the concept of what we're going to be working on. So first thing we're going to do is on the Start button, we're going to go and find the SQL Server Management Studio. I've already created one in this tutorial already, but I'm going to create another one to show you as far as databases go. One of the things you might want to check before you get started in this section is that the SQL Server is set up correctly on your machine, and I've made note of it in the instructions for this week, but I'm going to cancel out of this and show you how to do that just to double check. If you'll click on the Start button, or right click actually on your Start button, go to Computer Management, and let's go to Services and Applications, click on Services, scroll down till you find the Microsoft SQL Server, and you're looking for the one that says SQL Express. This one here is the one we're looking for, and it should be running. I'm going to go ahead and right click on that, go to Properties, go to the Logon tab. It should say Local System Account. It might say this account. You need to change it to Local System Account. Click OK, and then restart your service. That's going to help down the road as well. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the Start button again, go to SQL Server Management Studio. And again, SQL Server Management Studio is designed to help create a database and manage tables in SQL. You'll get this type of screen. It'll pop up to log in. It'll have your machine name, your computer name, SQL Express, Windows Authentication. Just click Connect. Over on the left will be, and by the way, yours will be different than mine because my name of my computer is different than yours. But you should have the name of your computer / SQL Express should be there. SQL Express should be there anyway. So I'm going to expand databases, and I've already created one called Test. And for this exercise, I'm going to create another one called Test 2. But you can create one called Test if you want to. But in order to do that, I'm going to go to the database folder, right click and select New Database, and I'm going to type in Test 2. Leave everything else the same below and click OK. Expand that Test 2. It does come with some default system tables, but we're going to create a brand new table in here. So just right click on the table folder, New Table. And here's where we begin adding columns and rows, or fields, and records for this table. So the first one's going to be ID. Int is going to be the data type. If you look down here at the bottom, we're going to find identity specification, and make sure it's set to yes. Just click on the drop down. If you double click in here, it'll toggle between yes and no. What this is for is to auto increment your record as a new record's added. It's also helpful for all tables, by the way, to have an index field and a key field. That's what this is going to serve for. It's going to be index, and it's going to be the primary key. So once you set that identity and specification to yes, leave everything else alone. This is just saying it's going to increment by 1. We're going to right-click on that field and set primary key. You'll notice the allow nulls is unchecked, meaning it has to have content in that field, which it will. The next one is going to be full name. And then just hit the enter key or return key on your keyboard. Last one's going to be email. You'll notice it'll default to nchar 10, giving it 10 spaces. We're going to change that to nvarchar, and we'll change it to 75 instead of 50 on both. So you can just type in nv and it'll pop up nvarchar 50, the default, and change 50 to 75. Once you've done that, you can click away anywhere here and then click the Save All. It'll ask you what to enter for a table. We're going to put contacts. And we'll leave that open just in case we have to come back to it. Now let's go to the Visual Studio. Now we're going to start up. Here's the finished one I just did. I'm going to create a new one along with you. So click the File menu, New Project, Windows Form Application. We'll call it Contact, or Contacts plural. Contacts plural is fine. Click OK. We'll expand the form a little bit. Click on the form here and rename Form 1 to My Contacts. So go to the text property of Form 1 and put in My Contacts. We're going to go to the toolbar or toolbox, and I'm going to add in a couple things. A data grid view I'm going to throw in there. And I'm also going to put in here a binding navigator. The binding navigator, I'm going to go ahead and fill up the screen there with it like that. I'm going to go to the binding navigator property here and scroll down to the auto size columns mode and change that to fill. It's going to fill up the data grid with my fields in just a second, and my records. And let's hit a Save All. Contacts is fine. Now we're going to add the server. The server Explorer should be at the bottom now of your Visual Studio. If you don't see it, you can go over here to the Tool menu or Windows menu to find Server. But it should actually be in the server. It's actually called Server Explorer. And it's going to be in the View menu. So for Server Explorer, we'll go to the View menu if you can't see it on the left side of your computer there. So what I'm going to do is up here at the top, there should be a Connect to Database, Connect to Server, Add to SQL Server. Click on the Connect to Database. Here we're going to enter in the name of your computer / SQL Express. Easy way to find that out is if you go to the, actually if you go over here to the server, I'll hit cancel on that right now to show you. It should give you the name here in the server. So I'm going to make sure and expand the server so you can see the server name. You'll need that. Now I'll hit the plus symbol now to connect to database. So it should say for data source, Microsoft SQL Server, SQL Client. If it doesn't, you can hit the change button here and select it this way, where we're selecting a Microsoft SQL Server. For the server name, we're going to type in the name of your computer. Here's mine, and I'll spell it just like it is there. Desktop -HNMCP mcpce / SQL Express. And you can confirm the name of that by going to your SQL management tool. And there's the name we're looking for, SQL Express. SQL Express is what we need to put in there. So SQL Express, put all that in there. As soon as you type that in there, you can click the test connection to see if it should work. If it doesn't work, restart your Windows computer and try it again. It might take a while to recognize your SQL Server possibly. Use Windows authentication like it is. For the database, on the drop-down, it should see all the tables. We just created one called test2. Test connection again. Click OK. So now we've added to our SQL Server Explorer the new option, or the new connection to test2 database with the context table and all the fields. Click just like I've done to view that it is so. Now back to the form. We want to connect this and the data grid view and the navigation binder to this database. So in order to do that, we're going to click the data grid first. And on the upper right corner of the data grid is a little, looks like a play button. If you hover over it, click on that, go to choose data source, scroll down and you'll see the add project data source. Select database, next, and if you need to pause this while we're doing this, that's fine. Data set's going to be next, click next. It should already have in here your connection. Since I did one earlier, it has my old one in there. I'm going to select the new one, which is the test2. So it's the name of my computer / SQL Express.test2.dbo. That's a full path to the database. Click next. It'll automatically put in there a string for your connection. Leave it whatever it is. Click next. Here's where we'll need to select table or tables. If you hit the little triangle to the left of tables and then just select contact, it's going to just select that table. You could technically, since we just have one table, just select this, but just to show you what it does, I'll expand it to show you that. So we're just selecting the context table with the 3 fields. Leave the dataset name as it is. Click Finish. And here on the right, where it says Add Editing, Enable Adding, Enable Editing, Enable Deleting, we're going to leave that as it is for right now. So we're done with this part, except I want to get rid of the ID column. So in order to do that, we'll select the data grid again and go to the property called Collection right here. Click on that and find the ID, and you can go actually to the visible for ID and just select false. And then click OK, and it should be updated. Now we'll hit Save All. Now I've got to go to the Binding Navigator here, so click on that. And on the Binding Navigator, we want to bind it to the binding source, text or property. So find the binding source, select the drop down. There's a binding source, context binding source that was created. We also need to add a save button here, or save text. Right now you can add, delete, advance, go back and forth, but no saving. So what I'm going to do is on this property, we can do it actually here, or we can do it in the property. We'll do it on the property here on the right. We need to find the word collection for this Binding Navigator. So let's go down to the items. It's actually items is the name of it, and collection is a method. So click on collection in the items property. and we're going to go to the very bottom and click on the delete item one, and then go to the top here and select the drop down and select a button, click add. For display style, we're going to change it to text, and scroll on down. For the name, we're going to type in save button. Text, we're going to type in the word save, and then click OK. Hit save all. Now if we double click on the bar here on the form, right now, double click right here, it's already added some code for us, which is basically loading the database and the contents of the database into our record, into our form actually, in the data grid. So if we run this right now, I'll go ahead and run it to show you. There's no content in here because we haven't added any yet. And the save button really doesn't do anything right now. So if I was to add a record and an email, full name and email, it's not going to save right now. So we need to add some code in here for the save. So if you double click, all you need to remember before we do this is the names of your navigation. The binding source and the table adapter is all we need to remember. And just really we need to remember what it starts with is the word contacts. So if you double click on the save button here on the form, it'll take you right to the click event for that save button. First thing you want to type in here is contact, the word contact, and find the binding source. Contacts binding source. Dot end edit is what we want to select. This tells in code that we're ending editing this record or the records in the database. Next one is contacts table adapter. Dot update. And then in parentheses, we're going to put the same that's in the fill command, which is the name of the data set and the name of the table. And I put an extra parentheses in there. So it should be contacts table dot update left parentheses me dot test2 dataset dot contacts. Now we're ready to do a save all. Go back to our form design and let's run it and test it. I'm going to have you put your first name and last name in the full name. Put your email in the email. Click away from your email field back to your first name, and then click Save. Exit the app. Hit Start again and see if it's there, and it should be. Let's go ahead and test the delete. Well, let's add one more before we delete. I'll do Tim Cook. Click away, click Save, and let's go to the first record and hit this button here, which will delete. Hit Save, exit out, and let's see if we still only have one record left, which was a Tim Cook record. There we go. So that concludes how to create a database and table in SQL. Also showed you how to go into the services area in your Windows environment to make sure it's logged on as system user. We also went here into, I'll go ahead and stop this, into the Server Explorer and connected to the new database and table. Showed you how to bind that database and table to a data grid and also to a binding navigator. Created a save button, and in the code we also added 2 lines of code to and edit and update. And so that concludes the SQL database. Much more to learn, by the way, in SQL. But this is a good starter for you to get you started down the road and using SQL databases, which is used in pretty much every app I've ever created for companies, because that's a de facto database environment. So hope you enjoy. If you have any questions, definitely shoot me an email. And that concludes the tutorial. Thanks. Bye-bye.